Release the Kraken!
Welcome back, fellow game designers. In our last one, we went ahead and set up our text and our buttons. And in this one, I want to get a lot of this set up, and hopefully we'll have some level transitions and a functional game by the end of this video. Might be a bit of a long one just because coding takes a while, but we'll try to keep it. All right, so we have our text up here. First thing I want to do is get it so that our text updates whenever we need it. So we're going to jump into our game manager here. We have it set so our building text writes buildings 10. And that's not really the best way of updating the text information. We want this to update dynamically whenever a building is destroyed or created or whatever. So just writing it in here doesn't quite work. So what we'll need to do is change this a little bit. We're going to get rid of the 10. We'll leave the buildings colon space, and then outside of that we're going to do a space and then plus, and then another space, and we're going to do what's called concatenation, where we're going to add two strings together. But the one we have to add is going to be a variable. So this variable is going to be our number of buildings. And you can see that this is red and angry because we haven't created it yet. And we do need to convert this to a string. So we're going to do dot and then to string, like so. And that is a function. Now right now it is red and this is not properly highlighted because it doesn't exist. Let's go ahead and just make that. I'm going to come up here. And we're going to make this a public variable because we need access to it. So public. And this is going to be an integer. And then we're going to call this number of buildings. You go ahead and just cap it off there with a semicolon, and you'll see suddenly it is no longer red, and we can see that our string has the correct color coding for the function. Yay. But where is the number of buildings going to come from? Well, that's going to actually happen on our buildings. So we're going to jump over there. And then in here, we're going to set up the updates for our building count. First thing, we need to have a reference to our game manager. So go ahead and just hit enter there. Private game object, and then our game manager. And then just before our collision, we need to get a reference to this. So we have the variable, but to grab the actual object, let's go ahead and hit enter here. Let's create our start function. So we're going to do void start. And it's okay if you leave it as private. Remember that these are private by default, so even if you don't see it, it's automatically private. But we'll just leave that as it is. And then here, we're going to actually search for our game managers. So we're going to do game manager is equal to game object dot find. And this is a function. And then in here, we're going to search by name. In quotes, we're looking for the game manager that is within our actual game. So just make sure that this is the same name as this one. Okay. So when the game starts, it's going to run this search and then find that in the game. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now I want to update the game manager's number of buildings. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So game manager dot get component. Put those angle brackets on there and the parentheses because that is a function. And inside there, we're going to do game manager code, and then dot, and we want to get the number of buildings. So number of buildings, and we're going to do plus plus, and that says at the beginning of the game, each building as it is born, it'll find the game manager, and then it's going to add one building to the game manager's count. So this will update our building number for us. So if we go ahead and save it, jump back into the game, let it compile. Let's see, how many buildings do we have here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like. If I come up here and hit play, and then press my play button, our number gets updated. Woohoo! So that works. But now we need to make it so that whenever a building gets destroyed, it gets removed. So let's go ahead and do that. So then if I scroll down to the on collision event, I'm going to jump into there, and I want to make this so that the building removes itself. So just before it gets destroyed, we're going to grab access to our game manager code here. So I'm going to just copy this line, And then instead of plus plus, which adds 1 to the game manager count, I want to do minus minus, which subtracts 1 from the game manager count. Now this is, if you're not familiar with code, the exact same as doing minus equals 1. It's the same thing. It's just a shorthand. Okay, and if I save that and take a look, let's see how that updates. I play, and then play. So we've got our 4. Let's see what happens when 1 gets destroyed. Okay, so we had 2 buildings get destroyed, but look, our building count didn't change. And the question is, why didn't it change? Well, the reason is the variable that we actually created, if we jump over to Game Manager, this does get updated. But if you look here in our function where we're actually redrawing our text, we do this inside of our start game function. This only gets called when we hit that play button. Okay, so what we need to do is create a new function that updates our text. So let's go ahead and just jump out of this one. I'll do a public void. This one needs to be public so we can access it. And we're going to call this one update score. And I'll enter and put some braces on there. And I take this, I do Control X to get rid of it, and then I will paste it in here with Control V. And then inside of our start game, we will call our update score up there. So update score. Okay, so whenever we press start, it'll call this function, and then it'll run this code. Okay, and then inside of our building, go ahead and save. We want to also call the update score function whenever we remove a building. We don't have to do it up here because this gets updated whenever we push the start button right here, right? But this one needs to get updated whenever the building gets removed. So I'm going to just call that again. So I'm going to grab this line of code, Game Manager get components, up to the dot there, Control C, and then Control V. And now we're going to call the function, which is update score. So now if I add a building or remove a building, we should be able to see that happening in here. So I'd play, and then I'll hit play again. So I've got my 4 buildings. Might take a second to get one of these to drop on it. Oof. There's one. Okay, it updated. That's good. And those ones updated, boom, boom, boom. And buildings are 0. Oh no, I should have lost the game. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for our asteroids and then our score. So let's go ahead and jump in. Go over to the Game Manager. And let's go ahead and create our number for our asteroids. So it's going to be a public int and then number of asteroids. We're going to come down and update that here. So I'm just go ahead and copy this line of code, Control C, and then enter, Control V, V as in Victor. And we're going to change this instead of building text. This is going to be asteroid text. Get component, that's good. And then the number of asteroids here. So I'll say asteroids. And this is going to be number of asteroids to string, so number of asteroids. Okay, but now where are we going to get the number of asteroids? Well, that one's actually going to be simple. We're going to go ahead and hit save, and then go over to our spawner, because our spawner is the one responsible for spawning in our asteroids. So in here, let's go ahead and find a spot. I'm going to make a variable here. We'll do public, and this should be a integer. And we're going to call this one number of asteroids. And I'm going to change this one just a little bit. I'm going to say to spawn, and then semicolon. Okay. We also need a reference to our game manager. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit, and then just above this game object, I'm going to make this one private, and then game object, game manager. Okay, let's come on down and make a start function. And then we'll do a void start. And much like before, we're going to get access to the game manager we're going to find our game manager, and then we're going to update its values. I'm going to go to my buildings here. And I'm going to go ahead and copy the start function code here. So Control-C, jump into our spawner. Inside of our start, we'll do Control-V. And most of this is going to be the same, with the exception of we're not going to do a ++ here. We want the number of asteroids, so we're going to go ahead and grab that, number of asteroids. We're going to set that equal to the number of asteroids to spawn, like so. Bam! And the reason we're not going to do the ++ here is we're actually setting this in-game. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to go over to our spawner. And now we have a number of asteroids. You see that down here? I go ahead and just set that to the number that I want. And if I hit play, and then I hit play again, and it actually updated because the building got destroyed, but you can see that we're in. But now that we have the correct number, you can see that as I delete asteroids, they don't disappear. This number should go down. So what we need to do now is tell it so that whenever we click on an asteroid, to remove one from the asteroid count. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll jump back in. Okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to go to my asteroids here. And right off the bat, we need to have a reference to our game manager. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the top here, do a public. And this is going to be a game object. And then we're going to want the game manager. Okay. Now you might be wondering why I chose to make this one public, and the reason has to do with how we're going to get access to our game manager. So on our building, we have a function that runs at the very start when the object is born, where it runs a search to find the game manager. And we do kind of the same thing for our spawner. However, we don't want to do that on our asteroids, and the reason is our asteroids are born live while the game is currently running. When you first start a game, anything that gets created, that runs in the very, very beginning only once. And then, you know, that kind of stays in memory. However, because we have objects being created live while the game is running, every time it runs a search, that's a lot of objects to kind of search through. And the more objects you have, the longer that search takes. And if you have a lot of searches running, that slows the game down. So it's not really recommended to run search operations while the game is actively running. So what we're going to do is pass in the game manager from our spawner. Okay, so I'm going to jump back over and hit save. Jump into our spawner here. I'm going to scroll down, and right inside of our spawn enemy, right before we spawn our prefab, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And I'll go ahead and make a line. Let's say pass game manager to prefab. And we're going to call our enemy prefab dot get component. And we're looking for the asteroid code dot, and we want to get the game manager. And we want to set that equal to the game manager. So the game manager of our asteroid code should get the game manager of this object. Now, one thing that we did is we made our enemy prefab. We called it enemy prefab because it could be any enemy. However, since we're specifying which piece of code we're talking to, we're no longer being generic here. We're actually being very specific. So to reduce any chances that somebody tries to spawn in something other than an asteroid, and then this gets read and causes an error, we should make this specifically call an asteroid. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this to asteroid prefab. And I'm going to go ahead and change this one as well. Okay. And let's go ahead and scroll back up. And wherever we have our enemy prefab, we should just go ahead and change that to asteroid prefab. So asteroid prefab. Okay. And I come down, just make sure we don't have any others. You could reuse the spawn enemy function, but if you want to call this spawn asteroid, you can do that as well. So you can just do spawn asteroid. And I will have to update that. So I'm going to kind of scroll through, and anywhere I had spawn enemy, I'm going to be changing that to asteroid. So there's the asteroid prefab, yes, yes. And then come down here, we have one more. This one's going to be spawn asteroid. Okay. Run right through, make sure I don't have any errors. Looks like I'm good. We will save. And now we'll go to our asteroid. We should now be able to have the asteroid with the game manager. And we can see that if we hit play. So I'm going to jump out, let this compile. I'm going to come over to our spawner. And you'll see that because we changed the name of our enemy prefab to asteroid prefab, that we did lose the reference. So I'm going to come over to my prefabs here. Let's go ahead and just drag that in. And now if I hit play, they will spawn in. If I grab one, you'll see that they come in with the game manager attached, which is awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and exit that. I'm going to jump over into my asteroids this time. And now, whenever we click on an asteroid and they get deleted, we want to remove them from the count. So I'm going to come over to our mouse down function. And just before we delete the object, we are going to get access to the game manager. So let's go ahead and steal the code. Don't be a copy paster, it's bad for you. All right, we just need the game manager get component line, so go ahead and do that. Number of asteroids, copy that. I will paste that here. I'll do minus minus. We should also, at this point, award the player some points. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in that piece of code again, except this time this is going to be points, or score. We haven't created a score variable, so let's jump over to our manager. And let's go ahead and make the score. So do public int, and this is going to be current score. And while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and just create our score text. So let's copy this guy. Paste that in. This is going to be score text. This is going to be score. And then the current score dot toString. Save that. Go back to the asteroid. Let's go ahead and finish this line here. So this is going to be current score. I'm going to do plus equals and then points earned. And the plus equals just means to add this to the left of the equal sign. I'm going to do points earned here. You can see it's mad and angry. We haven't made that yet, but we'll do that in just a second. Let's go ahead and grab the game manager through the dot there. Copy it, paste it. And now we also want to update the score. So I'm going to do update score. All right. Now let's go ahead and adjust our points earned. So let's create a new variable. We'll do a private int. Call this points earned. We'll set that equal to 100. And since this is an integer, I don't have to put the little f on there. Go ahead and save it. Jump back in. Let's go ahead and hit play. And I can click and gain a score. Awesome. And you can see this, the count for the asteroids gets updated as well. Hey! So now that we have a way to get rid of the asteroids and a way to get a score and a way to account for how many buildings we have, we should adjust it so we can win and lose the game. So let's go ahead and set up our win condition. Let's jump into our game manager here. And right after our update score, let's go ahead and create a new function here. We'll do void. Call this check win condition. All right. And then for our win condition, we need to check if we've won the game, lost the game, and whether or not there's officially a game over. And then in here, I'm going to do check if game is over. So the first situation for our game to be over is if we've lost the game. So if number of buildings is less than or equal to 0, then we've lost the game, right? So we had to put some braces on there. And if we lose the game, we want to make sure that we have a variable set for game over. So game over would be true. And then we want to have a message written to the screen. So we're going to say prompt text dot set active. We'll set that to true. And we should write out a message that we've lost the game. So prompt text dot get component. And we want to get the text mesh pro GUI. And then we want to set text. And this should be string. We'll say mission failed. Hey. And then if the mission has failed, we also want a way to restart the mission. We should also set the buttons to be active. So we'll do play button dot set active true. We should set the text on the play button as well. So we'll do play button dot to get access to the play button's text. Actually, we need to do something a little bit different. So just to show you, if we go to our canvas here and I open up the play button, you can see the text is a child. In order to talk to the child, I have to first ask the parent for permission. That's just kind of like the rule. So I have to go into here and I have to do transform dot get child. And then inside of there, it's which child do you want. And they're ordered from 0 and up. So the first child would be 0. Dot, and now I can do get component. And then inside of get component, we're going to get the text mesh pro GUI. And then we can set the text. And so the text on the button, so if we've lost the game, we should be able to retry. So I'm just going to go ahead and just change the text on the button there to retry. All right. And then we should also have the quit button. So quit button, we'll set that one to active. We're also going to lose any score that we gain. So if we've lost at any point, our score should be 0. So current score, that'll be 0. If your player had any lives, you'd remove those here as well. I don't have any lives, so I'm just going to go ahead and just update the score. So update score. And I think we're good. We need to make this variable active, though. So let's go up. And then inside of our variable list here, I'm going to go ahead and just make a public bool. And this is going to be our game over. Go ahead and scroll down. So there's this one. And then we need our win condition. So the else if. So if we've destroyed all the asteroids, we should get a win. So number of asteroids less than or equal to 0. And if we've achieved that, then pretty much all this is the same. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this. And yes, if we win, the game is still over. So game over gets checked. We want to set our text, and then we're going to change our text to mission complete or accomplished or whatever congratulation you want to give. The play button will now say next mission or next level. Mission. We'll do next mission. And that'll be set active, and the quit is active. The score this time is going to get an update. So score will be plus equals the bonus score. So bonus score times number of buildings. We don't know what our bonus score is yet, so we're going to have to make that. And I think that's pretty good here. Let's go ahead and just make the bonus score. Under score here, I'll just do public. And actually, that one's private because we don't need to see that one. Int bonus score. We'll do 25 points extra per building. All right. Good, good. And now we want our win condition to be checked. So I come down to my update, and I do check win condition. And I only want this to be checked if the game has started or if the game is not over. So we're going to do if game started. We'll do and game over, and we'll say not. So I'm going to put an exclamation point in front of the over. So this is not. So if the game has started and the game is not over, we can check the win condition. I'll go ahead and just tab that over. And if you had a paused option, you'd put paused in here as well. So we need to set our game started variable. Let's go to the top here. So we have our game over. We'll do public bool game started. And both of these, we can set these both to false in the beginning. So that one's false. And this one will be false. Okay. And then for our start button, since our start button gets activated whenever the game starts, we hit play. That's when this function gets called. And when the game ends, our start button becomes our retry button, which will again call this function. So we need this function to handle two things. It needs to start the game, and it needs to reset the game whenever the game's over. So let's go ahead and make some changes in here. First thing is I want to check if the game has started. So I'll just say if not game started. So if the game has not started, we want to start the game. So game started is true. The next one is if the game is over. So game over. And I'll put some braces on that one. And I'll leave the score at the bottom. We don't need that one in here. That can happen last. So if the game hasn't started, just go ahead and start it. However, if the game has started, we're going to skip down to this one, right? And check if the game's over. If the game is over, we need to reset some values before a new game starts. So in this case, we're going to take our game started. We'll make sure to set that one to false because the game's no longer started. And then the game over is also going to be false because the game, since we're restarting, is no longer over. And this right here should get us enough that we can end and restart the game. So let's go ahead and test that. I'll save it, jump in. And if I hit play here, our asteroids start a little bit early. We should solve that. We'll go ahead and hit play. So the game has started. And if I get rid of some asteroids, let's see if I can win. I've got points. And last one, well, bam, mission complete. Yay! And if I hit next mission, we end up technically restarting. You see our values didn't get re-updated, so we're going to have to do that. But we did keep our score, which is good. We didn't update our new buildings. So let's solve a couple of problems. One, let's stop the asteroids from spawning in too early or too late. I'm going to jump over to our spawner. I'm going to scroll on down to our spawn asteroid. And we only want the asteroids to spawn if the game has started and if the game is not over. So if game manager dot get component game manager code dot game started and not, go ahead and just copy this line. I'm going to paste it after the exclamation point. Okay. And just so it's not going off screen, I'm going to go to just before the exclamation point. I'm going to hit enter. And that's going to wrap my code here. So this is one continuous line. Okay. And then down here for my spawn, I'll go ahead and just tab that over. If this is kind of confusing to you, you can add some braces. So I'll go ahead and hit enter after the parentheses there. And I'll do open brace. and I'll move my spawn asteroid inside. Okay, so this is the one line, and we want this to be game over. So if the game has started and the game is not over, we can spawn some asteroids. That's what this is doing. Save that. And we can just test that right away. Hit play. You can see that no asteroids have spawned in yet, and nothing's been updated. If I hit play, things are falling in. Nice. I'm going to go ahead and cheat real quick. I'm going to grab my game manager. I'm going to go to the number of asteroids. Let's go ahead and hit that to 0. Suddenly I've won the game. Woo! It's good to be the admin. I've won the game. You can see no other asteroids are falling. Awesome. Now, we haven't really, our quit button's not going to work because we haven't baked the game out. However, our next mission should initiate the next mission. So if I hit that, you can see that everything's cleared. However, we haven't loaded the level. So we should do that. Let's go ahead and exit. And before we can actually load the level, we need to add it to our build settings. So let's go up to our file here, come down to build settings. And here is our scenes in build. And I can go down to my scenes, and you can see there's my scene there. You can drag it in if you like. If it's the current open scene, you can hit add open scene, and it'll add it right here. And you can see there's our scene. And you can see that there is the index of the scene. The index always starts at 0. We should, of course, change our scene from sample scene to something more interesting. So let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and right-click on it, rename. Let's go ahead and call this level 1. And it's going to ask us to reload, so go ahead and do that. So there's our level 1. Go ahead and save. Jump into our code here. Let's go back to the game manager. And inside of our game over, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter a couple times. This line, this is going to be load next level. To load a level is actually pretty easy. We're going to call the scene manager, which is built in. That is coming from our utility scene management. So we're going to call the function for that. Scene manager dot load scene. And that is a function. And it takes a string for the level name. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the level name in here real quick. So level 1. Save it. I'll jump back in. All right, so far so good. We'll hit play. And we have an error. Let's go ahead and check our console. It says unassigned reference to the variable asteroid prefab of spawner has not been assigned. So when we actually renamed our level, it dropped some stuff. Let's go ahead and clear. Come down to prefabs. And let's grab our spawner here. And just drag our asteroid back in. That was weird that dropped. We'll go ahead and just save it. And we'll hit play. Okay. And I'll go ahead and hit play. And everything's falling in. Cool. What happens if I win the game? Let me get a score here. Test everything out. I have a score. Let's go ahead and hit next mission. Okay, so we got loaded in. That's good. But you do see that we do lose our score. That should stay. Buildings and asteroids, those are fine to clear. They'll get updated when I hit play again, and they do. But my score is cleared. So that's an issue. We'll come back to that. Let's see what happens if we lose. Oh, I almost lost. Really? You're going to make me wait it out? Why would you do this to me? Okay, so once we lose, I'm going to go ahead and hit retry, and it reloads the level. That's very good. It's okay for the score to clear here. That's fine. And if I hit play, we're starting over. So it works, kinda. One issue that we're having is we are losing data. So whenever a level is reloaded, any object that's in there gets deleted, and then new objects are loaded in. So whatever information they had, they end up losing. So that means that our game manager gets deleted, and whatever it had on here kind of got deleted as well. To keep our score, we want to make sure that our game manager stays alive between level transitions. Okay? So to do that, we have to make it a persistent object. Let's go ahead and do that. Jump in. Make sure we're on our game manager. I'm going to go up to the very beginning here. Let's make a new private boolean. So private bool. And we'll call this one game manager loaded. And we'll do a false. And we'll do game manager created false. Currently it's false. And we want to go into the very beginning of the game. So normally you have a start function. We actually want to do this on wake. On wake happens before anything else actually happens. So I'm going to make a new function here. There's going to be a void awake. And then inside of here, we can go ahead and just change this. This is we'll do awake called once before everything else. And what we want to do in here is set do not destroy on load if our game has been created. So we're going to do if not game manager created. So if our game manager is not created yet, we're going to go ahead and set game manager created to true. And we also want to set don't destroy on load, and that's a function. And it wants to know which object we want to preserve, and that's going to be this dot game object. Okay, we'll save that. Let's go ahead and test it. Hit play. And play again. So we're in our first level. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just win real quick. We win. Okay. You can see that our game manager got a do not destroy on load. So when we transition, our score should stay the same. So I hit next mission. And oh no, we lost our score. But also look, we have two game managers. That's a problem. We don't want to end up having multiple game managers every time. You can see if I keep hitting the button, we're getting each one of them is being spawned with new information, and we're having a problem where they don't all get destroyed on load, so eventually we'll have a whole bunch of game managers. So let's go ahead and exit that, come back in. We want to make sure that there's only one game manager. So I'd enter here. I'm going to do else. And if it has been created, we want to make sure that any others get destroyed. So we're going to say destroy this dot game object. Very simple. Go ahead and save it. Jump back in. Okay, let's go ahead and test it. Hit play. And then we'll play again. So far, so good. We'll grab the game manager. I'll go ahead and cheat. Hit 0. Okay, so here's our score. Does it stay? We'll hit next mission. Oh no. Our score disappeared and we end up having two game managers. Still, if I hit play and retry, we still get a bunch. So there's a problem. But we set our code, right? Let's go take a look. All this is correct, but what do we do wrong? Well, we didn't do one important thing, which is on our game manager creation, we need to make sure that this is a static bool. So if we make this static, that means that this variable will not get refreshed in between those transitions because both game manager copies are using the same piece of code, right? So we want to make sure that the new one gets, when it gets the code, it doesn't have a fresh variable here. And that's what we have to change. Okay, so I'm going to jump back in. So now everything should work for that. We'll go ahead and save. We'll hit play. And we'll go ahead and just cheat our way to victory here. We'll go ahead and hit that 0. Awesome, and we have a score. We have a mission. Let's go ahead and hit next. So far, so good. Our game manager, we only have 1. That's good. But wait a second, our score got updated. What's going on there? Well, if you look, take our game manager and look at our text. and our other values. These are all gone. They're all missing. The reason is we transitioned to the next level, everything got destroyed, right? Well, we made our game manager persistent, so he stayed. But all of the things it talked to, those disappeared. So these, you can't talk to them anymore. We need to make all of our canvas items, all of our text and our buttons, we need to make those persistent as well. So we're going to go ahead and just stop. Now it is a bit of code to go through and make that persistent, and then all the buttons persistent. Luckily, that do not destroy unload works for an object and all of its children. So we can cheat a little bit. We're going to take this canvas and drag that to our game manager. And now the canvas is a part of him. And whenever the game gets reloaded, both of these will be protected. Let's go ahead and test that now. Hit play. And we'll play one more. Let's go ahead and win by cheating. Hey, and next mission. Boom, we're into the next mission. Awesome. And you can see that our points are there. And yeah, there are some things that we need to clean up, but I think this is close enough for this video. In the next one, we're going to go ahead and finish up those last little touches to make level transitions and all of this kind of work very seamlessly. And then after that, we'll start adding in our new assets and such. Okay, so hopefully you found this educational. Go ahead and save it, and I shall see you next time. Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel. Misty and I both thank you. If you enjoyed that video just watched, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, we're at 1,400 subscribers. Woo! If you have any suggestions for future videos, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. And if you want to keep up with me on Twitter, it's BruceRF1. That's also in the description. And if you want to support the channel, make it easier for me to make content for you, check out some of my merch or one of my books. But yeah, all that, again, is in the description. Check it out, and I shall see you next time.